Total bilateral trade in goods between the United States and Egypt stood at $9.1 billion in 2021, the highest level ever. Egypt is the United States' largest export market in Africa. U.S. exports to Egypt include wheat and corn, mineral fuel and oil, machinery, aircraft, and iron and steel products. U.S. imports from Egypt include apparel, natural gas and oil, fertilizers, textiles, and agricultural products. Under the Qualifying Industrial Zone Agreement, the United States waives duties on imports from Egypt if the value includes 10.5%. Israeli content. This program promotes stronger ties between the region's peace partners. Egypt and the United States signed a bilateral investment treaty in 1986 to promote and facilitate investment between our countries. Egypt and the United States have signed a trade and investment framework agreement, a step toward creating freer trade and increasing investment flows. American firms are active in most sectors of the Egyptian economy, including oil and gas exploration and production, renewable energy technologies, financial services, manufacturing, construction, telecommunications, and information technology, and the restaurant and hospitality industry. Flows of U.S. direct investment to Egypt stood at $1.5 billion in 2020, bringing the accumulated long-term stock of U.S. FDI to nearly $24 billion. Egypt is positioning itself as a regional energy hub, rapidly boosting renewable energy production, further offering potential opportunities for U.S. firms. In November 2022, Egypt will host the United Nations Conference of the Parties COP27 Climate Change Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh. Egypt and the United States belong to a number of the same international organizations, including the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and World Trade Organization. Egypt also is a partner for cooperation with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, an observer to the Organization of American States, a partner in the NATO Mediterranean Dialogue, and a non-party state to the International Criminal Court.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you for staying with us. With us now over the phone is Ambassador Medhat Meligy, a former Assistant Foreign Minister, to comment on the visit by the U.S. Secretary of State to Egypt. A very good evening to you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you've followed the visit from its start, where Mr. Blinken met with His Excellency the President, attended a meeting with the Air Foreign Ministers, held a press conference with Foreign Minister Shukri. Did you hear anything different this time, Mr. Ambassador, from Mr. Blinken that would signal that the U.S. will this time indeed push seriously to stop Israel from invading Rafah, to stop Israel or to lure it into the ceasefire, or at least allowing the trickling of aid to go in via the terrestrial corridor? Because as we heard from Mr. Blinken, the maritime corridor is not a substitute, it's a complementary.
Well, I think we have to understand that the diplomatic efforts should not stop at any moment in order to finally achieve a ceasefire and maybe to resume the peace process in any way or form. But unfortunately, what we've seen so far, although there are many promises that we got previously from the American administration, from the 5 previous visits of Mr. Blinken himself, that which none of them have achieved any progress in this file. I think that the of all parties concerned, all love-peacing people. All peace lovers, and in the region and in the world, wants a ceasefire and want to see the genocide that is taking place in Gaza stop, wants to see humanitarian aid with sufficient quantities enter the Gaza Strip. But unfortunately, Israel and the government of the Prime Minister Netanyahu, the extreme right-wing government of Benjamin Netanyahu, is not interested in the two-state solution, in providing humanitarian aid for the Palestinians. Actually, they've been killing them just like flies. We've seen before how they killed people gathered around a truck to get any kind of food for them and for their children. And we haven't seen any kind of serious pressure from the American administration. Let's hope that this time Mr. Blinken is coming with a plan to implement what he's been preaching so far about a ceasefire, about humanitarian aid, about a two-state solution. I mean, what we've heard is always very good, but we only believe what we see and what is going to be really implemented. Does he have the power? Does the United States have the pressure that is going to exert on Israel to abide by the international law and by the international humanitarian law? Yes or no? This is the main question, but the plans are there from a long time. Egypt has crafted several plans for exchange of prisoners, for a long-term ceasefire or a truce, and for resume the talks between the Palestinians and the Israelis with any kind of mediation. But so far, none of these plans have seen the light simply because Israel is not ready for this yet, unfortunately. But we hope that Mr. Blinken this time has what it takes, that the United States has some tools this time to pressure Israel to accept the conditions that are seen decently by the whole international community. And we hope to see some results.
I understand from your words, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying that even if the U.S. wants to stop Netanyahu at once, it might not be able to do so. Is that correct?
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, the decision that is taken in the United States about Israel are different from what should happen, simply because we are entering an American election year. And in this year, none of the presidential candidates is ready to lose the Jewish community votes and the support of the Jewish lobbies in the United States. And accordingly, they do not seriously want to pressure Israel to accept something that it doesn't want to accept. We haven't seen any threat of reducing diplomatic relations or by not supplying arms or ammunition. Actually, we've seen the opposite exactly. So why would Israel comply with the international law and with these pressures if they are not accompanied with serious execution steps to be taken if they do not abide by the rules? This is the point.
Okay, so another question. Yes.
Of doing that is the United States, and we hope that they will do something. Or this round is going to be just like the previous rounds.
Another question. We all know, of course, how urgent, I mean, the necessary the humanitarian aid is, and how catastrophic an invasion of Rafah would be, and even the U.S. says it is against that. But my final question here is the price that Israel is waiting for normalization with Saudi Arabia? I mean, it's just a blunt question here. I mean, it seems to be a bargaining game. Hamas wants something, Israel wants something, the region wants something, the U.S. wants something. So what does Israel want in the end? Because it will not be able to displace Palestinians. I mean, this will not happen. So is the price normalization with Saudi Arabia? What does it want?
Well, it's not that or this. Israel wants to accomplish two victories that it claimed from the beginning that it will not stop before accomplishing them. The first one is the total liberation of the hostages, and the second, the total destruction of Hamas. And it says, and the Prime Minister himself has said it clearly, if we do not achieve those two goals, then we lost the war. And he is not ready to lose the war. First of all, he has already lost the trust of the Israeli public opinion. Second, if he loses this, he will not stay in power, and then he can face allegation of corruption, as we have known that he's facing already. The only thing that is preventing this government from falling and actually this government from leaving power is that the war is on. And as long as this war is on, he will stay in place, thinking that by achieving a victory, he can buy some time for himself to arrange his government from inside and continue. Unfortunately, the price is too high because we are losing lives. We are gambling with lives, including the lives of the Israeli hostages held with Hamas. Unfortunately, the situation is very bad, and the only one who can defuse this situation is the United States if it plays its cards correctly and put the right and necessary pressure on Israel to accept the propositions made by the American administration. If they will not do this, then there is no hope for changing in Israeli position. They will not change it. Why would they? If the support of the United States will continue, if the supports of most of the European countries and the NATO countries will continue, then why would it stop? For humanitarian reasons, this is none of our concern. And they have said it clearly from so many ministers from this government. So unfortunately, we have to wait to see what is the real step that the United States is planning to undertake in order to assure that the Israelis will comply with the international law and with the demands of the international community. It is not that we have several and different demands. It's only one demand, which is to spare the Palestinian lives and to open corridors for humanitarian aid and medical aid and to resume talks. And of course...
And the bloodshed of innocent civilians and end the starvation and you know, go for peace instead of go for war. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Medhat Meligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. And thank you very much, dear viewers, for watching the Daily Debate. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Stay with Nile TV.